From WDWNT, the worldwide leader in Disney Parks news, it's ParksCenter. What's happening, guys? Happy Wednesday. Happy St. Patrick's Day, unless you're watching this later than just Happy Wednesday. I'm Rob Whiteside. This is ParksCenter, and with us is Patrick Hackett.
Sivako?
Sure, be Sivako.
No.
Jill Diffendahl.
Hello.
Kamila Sanders.
Happy Wednesday.
And Emma Cooley.
Since I'm in Pete Square, Sivako, everybody. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
I'm sorry, could you just be just a touch louder? Just a little, because if you're going to represent for Pete, we need to hear it. It needs to be through the roof.
Sivako! Okay, I think I just annoyed the rest of my household, but anyway.
You know what? It's fine.
So it's just like Pete.
Hey-oh. Does Pete... okay, all right. So let's get to some news first before we get to March Madness. Disneyland's going to reopen April 30th. It's got a date. Special thanks to Penguin Project for saying, "Hey, he's going to take me." So we're going. It's going to happen.
Nope.
I don't know. It's going to happen. You got to be a Florida resident to go. The Grand Californian Hotel is actually going to open up on April 29th. So Kamila's getting her phone's ringing off the hook, I'm sure. And then they're gonna have a park reservation system, which none of us are surprised about whatsoever. I'm gonna go to you first, Kamila. Have you been getting people asking to book this trip, and have you been having to tell them only Californians?
So I will say, 5 minutes after this was announced, I literally had someone get in touch wanting to book Grand Californian starting on April 29th, which that was the tricky part about this. They announced it. No one saw it coming, although we knew it was going to be sometime. But there's really been no other instruction, so you don't really know how anything's going to work. Now, this person was a California resident, but still, you can't actually book anything right now. You can't try to get tickets. So you have all these people where it's already like the Hunger Games, and everybody's wondering how it's going to work. It's exciting news, though. I think it's great.
Yeah, you say it's like the Hunger Games, but it sounds like a touch of Disney is what it sounds like. There's going to be tickets on sale. We know the tickets are going on sale. We don't know when. We don't know how you buy them, but heck, they're going on sale, so let's make it happen. Jill, you haven't been to Disneyland in a while.
First time back after several years, that it was going to feel kind of lacking. Like I was going to walk around the park and look at all the things I couldn't do and look at Disneyland across the way and be like, but I want to go there and I can't. So I got super excited about this, but of course the fine print is, you have to be a California resident. I'm really hopeful that it won't take too long. I mean, April 30th is already almost 6 weeks away. So we're already pretty far out in terms of a lot of vaccination is going to happen between now and then. And I'm hopeful that things will get to a point where California regulations will allow them to open this up to non-California residents relatively soon afterwards. I also think, just for those beginning, at least, the first several weeks, I mean, looking back at how Walt Disney World was when they reopened, there's going to be a lot of kinks to work out, kink boats maybe, that, they're going to have to figure out how the park pass system is going to work and and capacity, and cast members are going to have to get used to new procedures and loading people onto rides with less capacity and things like that. So I think the first couple of weeks it makes sense because they're going to have to work some things out, but hopefully it won't take too long till they can open it up broader than California.
Patrick, you haven't been to a Disney park in forever. Tell me how soon you're going to be going to this one. Wrong answers only.
I'll be there April 1st. I figure that's the best day. Honestly, they should have opened the park on April 1st. It would have been hysterical. Nobody would have believed them. Yeah. I really, for the first time in forever, it's hopeful, and there's a lot to look forward to. The taste of Touch, I always get confused. The Touch of Disney event looks like a nice little sampling. So hopefully they'll get ready and open that park up.
Emma, anything?
Well, I have not been to Disneyland since 2010. So, of course, I would absolutely love to go back. I have a feeling that, whenever it's time that they'll let people outside of California into Disneyland, I got my first dose of the vaccine today. So I'm definitely ready to go. And, I mean, I know summer's a busy time, so, but I'm definitely hoping to get back there as soon as I can. I will book that flight.
And when we go back, there's going to be new stuff. So we already know there's not going to be an Avengers Campus ready for us when they open it up. But we do know that Snow White's Enchanted Wish is going to open with the park when it opens on April 30th. And then we've also been informed that the Haunted Mansion, which had been closed before the park closed for COVID, is going to get some new magic, but we don't know what kind of new magic that they're going to get. I'm going to throw this one to Patrick first and say, what kind of new magic could it possibly need?
Man, you missed the whole Haunted Holidays, and we didn't get the Nightmare Before Christmas layover. I would hesitate to think that they would put anything permanently Nightmare Before Christmas in there. I think it would be met with a lot of flack. I imagine we're going to see maybe some upgraded projections, some extra cobwebs. Nothing major. I think that's why they're referring to it as new magic instead of saying what it's actually going to be. I'm more excited to see what comes from Snow White.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a minute since you've probably ridden Snow White, Jill, because of did you do it when you went into California? Was it the last time was the one in Florida?
I believe the last time I rode it was probably before it closed in Florida, I want to say. I'm going to blank on dates for that. But, I mean, regardless, it's been a really long time since I rode it because I haven't been to Disneyland in about as long as Emma has been to Disneyland. Yeah. So I think that, I don't know, it makes me sad because it's one of those things that had I realized it was going away, I might have made an effort because Snow White Scary Adventures in Disney World was, I loved that ride. It was great. But all of this makes me want to go back, if anything, just to like ride all those old dark rides and stuff, because now there's this sort of fear that what if other stuff kind of gets, an update, a new magic or whatever, and we lose some of what it was before. So
I don't like this.
I'm with you, Reach.
Yeah, exactly. So, Kamila, you've probably been more recent than the rest of us, and you're going to go for a touch of Disney. Are you going to be excited to see these two new additions?
I am. I mean, I think this is what Disneyland does best. Partially, it'll be exciting to have Snow White Scary Adventures back. The dark rides are a classic at Disneyland. They still have many of them there, so it's going to be great to have that as well. And then Haunted Mansion, I think about what they did with Small World, where they kind of added in, the little princess touches, and some people didn't like it, but I thought it was really lovely. So I'm excited to see what this new magic is at Haunted Mansion. The last time I was at Disneyland, it was still closed, but I had been in when I had the overlay, so I have a lot of hope that it'll be really nice.
Man, are they going to add princesses to the Haunted Mansion? That'd be fantastic.
You can do it. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
The ghosts of the princesses. That would actually, I would want to see that, not going to lie.
I like that.
Wow, the ghost. That's really super dark. Thanks a lot, Jill. Emma, any other thoughts on this before we move on?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they did, with Enchanted Wish. I would like to see the new figures that they put in person. They look really nice. And I mean, I know Tom is all negative Nelly about the projections, but I would like to see those too, to see if they add something to the ride or if they take away from the classic feel of it.
You said two things together, Tom and negative Nelly. I do not understand what you're talking about. I'm very confused right now. So what I would like to talk about is Star Wars stuff, because I like talking about Star Wars stuff. There is this thing that I've been in search of for so long, the Spork. As we know, the Spork was released when the parks opened at Disneyland, and people started stealing them and then putting them on eBay. And then people were like, "We're going to take all these away. You guys are animals. We can't handle this." So then they went in and they said, "You know what? We got a good idea. We're going to sell them." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll buy one because it's going to be cheaper than I'd buy it from eBay." So they're back. I mean, I'm not there, but they are. They're back. That's exciting. And then if you're a vegan, there's some plant-based zucchini wrap going on that's there now. And honestly, it kind of looks pretty good to me. And then the souvenir bucket is back, this droid popcorn bucket, but they're not selling popcorn, but it's back. And then you've got this other breakfast wrap thing that looks, again, pretty good. I would eat this if you didn't tell me it was vegan. That's my hang up, is if you don't tell me that's what it is, it looks pretty good. I'm going to just pitch this out there. Is anybody excited about any of this stuff other than me?
I mean, it's plant-based options are always fun. I think it makes things more accessible for people. Will I try it? I don't know. Maybe. But, it's interesting. What I think was weird was doing the popcorn bucket without the popcorn, because I kind of would like that kettle mix to be back. I haven't tried it yet, so I'm really intrigued. And, I mean, sporks.
Yeah, you get this.
Are we surprised? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you get this. That's what you get. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody in chat just had the best line. Bood flog hack. Run a spoon in the garbage disposal for 5 minutes to make your own Star Wars spork.
Yeah.
Spork you can do that with? Spike the bee, spike the bee.
No, you're going to get us dinged. Stop it. Patrick, you had your hand up too. Were you excited about this stuff?
Oh yeah, I'm really excited. There's a hope that when I eventually do get back, I can get a spork. I want a spork. Look at all my Star Wars stuff. I need a
new
spork
hope
to go with it.
There's a new hope.
A new hope for a spork. And I love vegan treats. I am an omnivore, but I try and reduce my meat intake for health and moral reasons. So if it's delicious, I'll eat it. Let's do it.
Yeah, Jill.
I have sampled quite a few plant-based options at Walt Disney World over the last couple of years since they started becoming more prevalent. And I gotta say, Disney does a really good job with plant-based options. So and our reviews of these were really good. So I have every reason to believe that they are going to be tasty. And sometimes it's hard to find food in the park that doesn't feel so heavy and kind of terrible for you. So it's nice to have something like grilled zucchini. That's like novelty. It feels like it's a little touch of Satuli in Galaxy's Edge, I feel like, and that's great. I'm super frustrated that the sport came back now and not while I was still there, because I really wanted a sport.
Yep. Need a spork.
Yep, and no one on this panel is in Orlando right now for us to guilt them into getting us sporks. So, oh well. If Pete was here, we would beg him a little bit. Kamila, any thoughts on this? Because I assume we'll see the same stuff when Disneyland opens.
Yeah, I just am surprised that when Disney first opened Galaxy's Edge, they didn't start by trying to sell the sporks right from the beginning. Like, that's the only thing that surprises me, is that it ever was free or part of the experience. That changed quickly, and I feel like in a way we ruined it. But I mean,
animals.
What a moment!
Animals.
What a moment!
This is why we can't have nice things.
This is why we can't.
We are why we can't have nice things.
Oh yeah, that's
we
also
are.
true.
Yeah, and here's a case in point. So you know what? This story broke, and I felt like we couldn't not talk about this one, even though we've got March Madness coming up. I felt like we had to at least address the taco in the room here. And so what they've done is they've put the fountains on during the day. Now, we don't know if this is the final that we're looking at here. They're testing them. It's early. We can't judge them for testing it. But when I see this and then I see this, I don't know that matches up so well. That's okay. Here's the concept art, and then here's what we're seeing. It does take away a little hope that this might not be right.
It's like when you see a commercial for any kind of whether it's McDonald's or Red Robin or something that's kind of like a lower budget fast foody type option, and you see how nice it looks on the commercial, and then you get there and order it and it looks like a hot sloppy mess on your tray. That's kind of how these tacos are versus the concept art. Like they're massive. First of all, if they had fountains that would hide these tacos from view, I can't fathom how much energy, like wasteful energy that would take to run those fountains all day. So I am almost glad they don't, because I feel like it's like environmentally terrible to run those fountains all day if that's what they're capable of. But it's not good. It's not good.
I am convinced they just wanted to see water go out of them.
Okay.
What if I just wanted to say that? That's really all I have. But I think that has to be what it is.
There was just a test. We can't judge them on this, is what you're saying, Kamila. It was just a test.
They just wanted to see water.
Just like, hey, guys, there is going to be water. This ain't it. And just imagine how impressed we're going to be when it actually is at full blast.
Exactly.
Agree, 100%. It's going to be fantastic.
I'm just glad Epcot's getting a Carvel. They really went all out with the Fudgy the Whale in the middle of the lagoon.
These are tacos, sir? I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, maybe it's for the Choco Taco coming to the Mexico Pavilion.
Ooh.
I mean, I guess. I don't know.
It really looks like Fudgy the Whale. Look at it. I'm sorry, it's St. Patrick's Day. That's Cookie Opus.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's a very niche joke for most people in the Northeast.
No, I think most people get it. I think most people
All right,
get it.
good. Carvel's amazing.
It just looks as bad as the water screens from Rivers of Light with the mist. It just doesn't. I don't know. I hope it's better, but I'm really. I try to be a cautiously optimistic person, but I don't.
Are you being a negative Nelly, Emma?
Oh, wow.
You're in the beach here. You have to be the optimist.
That's true. I am.
Unless it's Epcot forever, and then you can lose
This
your
is
mind.
testing, so I do want to hold my judgment until I see it in person. But yikes, those photos. Anyway.
All right.
Somebody in the chat pointed out that, it's awfully suspicious that these testing started and then power outages started as well, kind of piggybacking on Jill's point.
Are you thinking that they busted the place by doing this? Yeah.
That supports my theory. That supports. I want to point that out.
No, noted. I mean, it is documented now. We got you. So there was the continuation. We're going to move on to March Madness. We're going to talk a little bit here. There was a continuation of the whole deal the other night on Thursday night. But there's one thing I wanted to show and play for you guys because I found that it was interesting to me.
This tournament is about iconic ride vehicles. If you were to show somebody who had never been to Walt Disney World a picture of the Millennium Falcon and a picture of a Dumbo, they're going to say, oh, Dumbo.
They're going to recognize the Millennium Falcon.
I think Jason.
They are, but you're going to. If you ask them which one represents Walt Disney World, they're going to pick Dumbo because that's the most iconic attraction.
That's not the name
so
of the
If they've never been there. If they've never been there?
I thought
The
it was the
tournament
most
is ride vehicles, not most iconic. It's ride vehicles. It's to determine the best ride vehicle. How iconic it is definitely factors into the argument, but it's not the only factor. This isn't the tournament to determine the most iconic ride vehicle. It's to determine the best,
Well,
which
then
I think
I've been
is
doing this
how
wrong the whole
iconic is
time
it? Does
because
it
I thought it
fit in
was-
the story? Does it accomplish what it's supposed to in the story? Is the design well done? How badly do people want to ride it?
Well,
I think all of those things have to be.
They made 2 Dumbos.
Okay, so first of all, we're almost done with the whole tournament, and now Tom says, "Oh, by the way, here's the criteria." Right? I mean,
That is literally the first time Tom has ever given criteria for any judgment of March Madness ever in the history of WDWNT March Madness, by the way. First time ever.
That's why I wanted to point it out, because it was, I mean, he listed through it. He listed through, this is what we were looking for. Would have been helpful, especially to Marcy at that point. But she, it was Jason was going for Epcot. We knew that. Marcy was going for Iconic, and apparently no one else told her not to. And so then, by the way, I almost downloaded this entire show and just cut out all the times they said Iconic, because it was mind-blowing how many times.
We said a lot too.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
and again,
you said Iconic.
Yeah, exactly.
Eric called it drink when someone says Iconic.
That's when I decided not to do it, because I thought, okay, it's obvious to everyone, not just to me, that this is happening. So we need to make sure to hold back our Iconics for this evening when we're talking about recapping what they did. Go ahead.
I will
Patrick.
defend Tom and echo what Eric Morton is saying in the chat. is that he did outline the criteria in the first episode, and we've outlined the criteria several times. Everybody goes about it and does it their own way anyway. You know, you had Axel, who was leaning on Disneyland Paris influences. We've had Josh in the tournament before, where he wants the most cash registers, and there's been times that people just get set on something and want to see it win. And a lot of times, you know, a lot of people give Tom a lot of flack, and he's just a very magnetic personality. This is how he got where he is. And when he starts talking something, other people start nodding. You start hearing what he's hearing, and you're going along with him before you even know.
Especially when he's like, no, you made the wrong choice.
And sometimes the panel goes completely against him, and we wind up with Cosmic Rays as the best counter service in Walt Disney World.
Yeah. So we're going to go, okay, that's fair then. And apologies, Eric. I did not realize that he had outlined everything ahead of time, but it felt like we were, like, we've been that way in the past when we've talked about, you know, Jill, you made this point just now, is that we weren't really sure. It was left open to interpretation, which is why I think Jason, like, you know, he picks his lane and Josh picked his lane, you know, in the past of what they were doing. So I do think it is helpful, because I think anytime I brought this up to anybody outside of our community and said, oh, we're doing March Madness, which vehicle would you, and it's like, well, what's the criteria? Like, that was their first question. Like, is it because it's the prettiest? Well, then the X2 never should have been in it, because the X2 is not pretty. It's a box. And then, well, if it's, okay, is it iconic? Is it something that we always think of? Then, you know, I don't know that the time machine is. But, you know, so I guess really the criteria has been up to interpretation on purpose in the past. That said, I think that we talked about the seating, and Eric, you backed us up on that, you know, the seating may have been a little bit off here, because when we look at where we ended up, that's not it. This is it. When we look at where we ended up, you know, we had called the Jungle Cruise boat. I think most of us thought that was going to make it to the Fantasmic Four, and it got eliminated early on by the Nautilus. You know, the pirate ship, because again, Kamila loves her a boat. I mean, it made it pretty far here, but it's not really a boat, because it's the Peter Pan pirate ship, but it's still a ship. The Nautilus, the same thing. The motor car, that's all nostalgia. I mean, and there was a lot of nostalgia calls that were made here, weren't there, Patrick?
Oh, absolutely. Nostalgia weighed heavy. I mean, Jason's criteria was twofold. Is it old? Is it at Epcot? I mean, I guess Jason's just looking for himself in the parks there.
I was just going to say.
I think nostalgia
I identify with the most.
Nostalgia is a powerful drug. I mean, we see it with every reboot. Punky Brewster, Saved by the Bell comes back. But I don't think it was the right thing for the Nautilus to win. And I don't think it was right that it went over the Jungle Cruise boat, because Jungle Cruise is still there. There's reasons that things get changed. There's reasons that things get taken out. And if Nautilus was still there, everybody on this network, everybody would be complaining how it's broke down, how it's too small, how you can't ride it during COVID. So it's nostalgia.
Yeah. Kamila, I want to get your take on some of this stuff. How did you feel about how things shook out?
Yeah, I felt like I was watching that last week, and I was trying to figure out what was happening. I didn't understand how the Nautilus kept advancing. And then we just got done talking about those ridiculous-looking barges in Epcot, and you literally voted as the #1 ride vehicle a ridiculous-looking, you know, hunk of junk that, you know, is in this. I don't know. I wasn't even alive back when that was a ride, so I didn't even know it. But I was really baffled by it. I didn't get it. And I will say, I called it that, you know, it's possible that it's not going to be Jungle Cruise. Statistics were on my side for that one, so that's not hard. But I didn't get it. And even seeing it, I didn't get it.
Yeah. Jill?
So I am wearing a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea shirt right now that has a Nautilus on it. I mean, it was, I don't know. I don't know what should have won. I mean, here's my problem, is that this entire tournament is fundamentally flawed, because it's impossible to separate the ride vehicle from the ride. Like, you can talk about, is it pretty? Does it have good design? even your nostalgia, though, your nostalgia is not based on the ride vehicle alone. Like, yes, the visuals of the ride vehicle can trigger nostalgia for you, but that nostalgia doesn't exist without the ride itself. None of the ride vehicles exist without the rides themselves, which is why I pushed hard for like Riverboat, which the ride vehicle is the ride, because at least there your experience is like almost entirely dependent on the ride vehicle's existence. And if you put something else in its place, it wouldn't be the same. But if you put something else in place of the backlot tram and you had a different ride vehicle going through that just functioned the same, you wouldn't care. You'd still enjoy it because it's about the ride, not about the vehicle. So I just think this whole thing is, like, of course, everybody's reactions were subjective. And hot take on Jason, I think Jason tosses out like ridiculous stuff because he's trying to get kicked off the panel for next time because these things go on so long that it's way past his bedtime by the time they're over.
Yeah. Emma, you weren't with us on the show last week, but what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, let's just say the Whigs know how I feel about this, but I'm going to try to be concise. I really think that there were some things that were not, like, I think the seating was off. Like, I completely agree with you guys, what you've been saying about that. I think it was totally off because I think if it was seated differently, Link Chair and Jungle Cruise Boat and several other things would have gone a lot further. And I know how much I really think nostalgia got in the way. Like, I think that's why things like that didn't go as far, because I mean, we don't think about the Link Chair as a nostalgic thing, but it really is a ride vehicle that, like, that is what immerses you into the story of the ride. It makes you feel like you're there by yourself. Like, the Jungle Cruise Boat is a part of the story with the theming of the ride and just how the cast member is, the one driving the ship and taking you through the ride. Like, that's all a part of it. And I think, nostalgia is great. And of course we all have nostalgia for different things in the parks, but I really think that clouded a lot of the judgment in this bracket.
Okay. So real quick around the horn, and I'll start with you, Patrick. How did you feel
around the what now?
I said horn. I should have said hub. Should I have said around the hub?
Nice. It would have felt good.
Or around the tub.
Ooh, boat.
Boat. Yeah, you and your Kamila.
I do want to say that I feel like I had a very negative influence on this bracket with my pushing for boats of all sorts. I know Kamila doesn't like the basic boats, and a boat did win. And there were what is the 8? It's not the Elite 8 because they would get us sued. It's the Sam the Eagle 8. There was like 4 or 5 boats in it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the pirate ship is the Peter Pan pirate ship. I mean,
that's
you've
a boat.
got. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then you got the
Peter
Nautilus.
Pan is generous.
Yeah. What do you mean as a boat? Yeah, because that doesn't meet Kamila's criteria for a boat, does it?
That's right.
It has sails and a mast.
Boat or not?
I mean,
that should be the next tournament: is boat or no. And the Millennium Falcon cockpit. The Falcon is a ship. Ships are boats. That's a boat.
Okay, so
I mean,
yeah. So talk more about. I lost you in frame there, buddy. I'm sorry.
There we go. We're back.
Yeah, we're
All
back.
good.
So again, looking at this, what are your feelings on the finals here? I mean, just at a glance.
Honestly, I feel like there's only 2 that really don't belong. I feel like the Spaceship Earth Time Machine doesn't belong at all, and I feel like the motor car doesn't belong. Everything else in the Phantasm, in the 8, is good there. As much as I disagree with the Nautilus, I can see the points. I didn't think it should have won just because of seating. The real issue is how far the Spaceship Earth Time Machine went, and also the backlot trams. Those things are. They're just not great.
Yeah. All right, Jill, what do you think about the finals?
I don't know. Because again, like, all of this is so, the criteria is so easy to be swayed based on how you feel about it. And I think we're going to get more of that in the next tournament, that it's going to be about how much nostalgia do I have for this place. It's not going to be about the objective determination of whether the backstory is good or bad. But we'll get into that shortly. Anyway, I don't know. Look, here's the thing. We do these tournaments because they're fun. We don't do these tournaments because, the winner is like gets some huge trophy and goes down in some Hall of Fame as the best whatever. We do these these tournaments because they're funny. They make everybody laugh. People say ridiculous things. We now can tease Nick about kink boats for the next 6 months, and everybody's going to die about it. It's going to be great. So there's just.
Well, I mean, yeah. I think. Wait, hold on a second. All right, Kamila has something to say. Kamila, what's going on?
We need to talk about the Viking ship. Okay, because there was serious conversation about that Viking ship. And here's the thing. I'm pretty positive I could go to my neighborhood. I don't know. I could find somewhere and I could find someone who could literally easily get that ship. I didn't understand how the Viking ship got so far. And then you look at what actually won. I mean, look, in Disneyland, they have a submarine too. And it's not that cool. And it's not worth that hot line you stand in to get in it, to be crammed into with a bunch of people to look out a little peephole. I don't know. I mean, the prisoner transport, I feel was the only real contender.
Yeah, I was a little upset that the Falcon cockpit got knocked out because I feel like that should have made it to the Final Four. I feel like the prisoner transport was rightly in the Final Four. Emma, I'm going to go to you about this. What are you thinking about the way that it ended up?
I agree. I think prisoner transport should have won. I mean, the fact that it has an animatronic in the ride vehicle, the fact that you see the ride vehicle in the story, it has multiple functions in the storytelling of the ride. I really think it should have won. And I mean, yeah, I agree about the Nautilus thing. I've been on that Nemo ride. It is way crammed. And that was not fun. It was not a good time, and I would not do it again. And I'm sad about the Falcon because I must say the last time, and I know people complain about being in the engineer spot, but really that's when I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, I am on the Millennium Falcon right now. I was sad that was.
Yeah.
But the whole argument about the box, the outside of the simulator, who cares? You don't even see that when you get on the ride. Anyway.
Yeah.
I think there's a valid point to that, though.
You don't see the outside of the ride vehicle when you get on the ride. I think that was an extremely valid point because every other ride vehicle in this tournament, you see the outside of it, and that's the only one where you don't.
Well, the X2.
Yeah, I think that's why.
I guess
the Falcon cockpit is better than the Star Speeder because you're very aware you're in a simulator at that point in time, and with the Falcon cockpit, you're not. I do want to defend the Viking boat. And I'm doing this earnestly. I'm not just saying it because it's a boat. It is one of the few things that made it through such a significant refurbishment. It looks like handmade Norwegian artwork. I really feel strongly about that boat. They all have a little bit of a different personality. I think it's a really great ride vehicle. And this comes down to, A, why we have the tournament, and B, they're flawed. A, we can have great conversations like this. And B, it's so objective. I mean, I really think it's like a piece of artwork. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of the Viking boat, the Viking boat actually swayed the vote. The listeners swayed the vote. So the fact that you can register now for our March Madness that starts tomorrow night, you've got a chance to go in and affect the next bracket. So you can be the one to overturn something down the road here. Go to our website. There is a shortcut to get to this, isn't there? I can't remember, but it's on our website.
I think it's WDWNT.com/MM for March Madness.
Okay.
I believe that works.
So I
also want to emphasize.
Yeah, go ahead.
Please, if you sign up, please use your votes. You have a vote every round. Look, over almost 500 people signed up for the first March Madness tournament with the ride vehicles. You surely know only 1% of them called in any one round. Use your vote. You can actually make things that deserve to win if you use your votes. Hundreds of people will completely overrule the panel of 7 people. So use your vote.
7.
No. Yeah, 7.
No, we're not. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so So let's move on to this one and take a look at it. We have the bracket. I'm trying to get it positioned ever so slightly here so that we can take a look at it. But here's the problem that I have before we get into this bracket is that last year we did rides that had, or attractions that had never been built, and I loved that because we learned a lot on the show as Tom kind of showed artwork, and there were stories on our website about it, and you know, we really learned about a lot of these attractions that a lot of them made me sad that they never got built. I think that the Critter Country ride made me sad that that wasn't built. The Herbie ride wasn't built, but it was really cool to see. Some of it I knew, like a lot of it I knew. Western River I knew about, but there were some that I didn't, so I feel like that was exciting to learn about. However, you don't really have a favorite until you get in and they explain them as they go through, right? So you have a favorite quick service, you have a favorite, you know, table service restaurant, you have a favorite attraction. Even in this, with the vehicles, you have some history in most cases with it. This is going to be something that sometimes you know this backstory, and that's what it is. It's the backstory, you know, of these things, and they're not just attractions. They're other things that have backstories at Disney, which is great because they're storytellers. That's awesome. I would argue, though, that if I don't know the backstory, then it's not obvious enough. Then they're not doing a good enough job explaining the backstory. So that, I mean, I do think it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to learn a little bit more about the backstories, but here's a little bit of the way that it's broken out. So we've got Twilight Zone, you got Rock and Roller Coaster, which says
Zach Arrowsmith.
Yeah, so that must be the one in France. Maharaj Jungle Trek, Soaring Fantastic Flight, Extraterrestrial Encounter, Storm Rider. So a lot of these are worldwide. So these are not necessarily the ones that are in Orlando or Anaheim. Have you guys taken a look at this? Patrick, can you walk me through, have you looked at some of these? Do you have a favorite? Do you agree that these should be things that the backstories are obvious, or is it cooler when they need to be explained?
One of my favorite things, kind of slowly integrating myself into the WDWNT landscape, is all that I've learned. And I think what you were saying in the never built attractions really rings true, because we learned a lot during this, and I think people are going to learn a lot during this tournament as well. It's kind of like mini Back to the Futures for each matchup.
Yeah.
In terms of favorites, I think if you've been a longtime WDWNT follower, the Splash Mountain backstory involving Rackety Raccoon and Scott doing Rackety's voice and all the shenanigans we did there, to me, that's great. And honestly, I think that's one of the things they should have leaned into if they were talking about, you know, keeping the theme the same, because Rackety is not a character from the Uncle Remus stories. And they could have, you know, kind of switched it up and used him. He could have been a no character, Rackety plush. It would have been great. So I think that, to me, nostalgia-wise and because of the influence it's had on WDWNT, is probably one of my number ones. I'm a big fan of Olivia's as well, so I don't know the backstory there. I usually drink too much and don't remember what's written on the menu. So looking forward to hear that.
You know what? I feel like Dino-Rama, for all we, you know, trash the area, it has a great backstory that kind of runs through the land. So I definitely think that's going to be one. Jill, have you looked at this? Do you have a favorite on here?
I mean, I have some stuff on there that I love, like Pleasure Island. I think has an amazing backstory, and I think that's a 2 seed, and I think that will go really far in the tournament. I have 2 things I want to say about this that are not about the things that are in the tournament, but the tournament itself. First of all, Tom said last week it was going to be a tournament of 32, not 64, and yet here we are. Second, we spent so much time, like there were entire articles about all of the unbuilt attractions last year. We don't have those this year. So like, how are people going to know what to vote for? I mean, I guarantee you the people on the panel, most of them don't know most of these backstories. So how are we going to have like good discussions about what the backstories are? And maybe Tom is going to explain them, but A, how much time is that going to take? Because this tournament has to happen in 2 weeks. And B, they're all going to be told through Tom's lens. So you're not going to get necessarily a fully objective telling of what the actual backstory is. You're going to get Tom's version of it, which is going to then probably wind up slanting people towards what Tom wants to win. I find this, I feel like we're going to run into a lot of issues here.
Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of them on here that I look at, like Gideon's Bakehouse. Like I've never been in it, but I don't know. Is the backstory obvious? It looks like it's an occult bookstore, but is the backstory obvious to it? I mean, you've been in it. You tell me.
Kind of.
Oh, when you walk in the door, it is clearly an occult bookstore. I mean, that place, like the first time I ever went in, I asked them about it, and like they had contracted like an architectural firm to build the building for them. And when they came back with like their concept art and their, models and stuff, they were like, no, this isn't good enough. And they wound up building it themselves because they knew exactly what they wanted it to be, and nobody else could bring it. It felt like WDI. It was awesome. But yeah, it's very clearly going to be. It's very clear that it's an occult bookshop. Now, what that has to do with cookies, I'm not sure how the big part ties into the occult books, because I don't know the backstory of the building. I know the actual backstory of the physical building, but I don't know what Gideon's backstory is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Kamila, I'm going to cut to you. Have you looked at this? Any thoughts on any of these?
A lot of votes, Kamila.
I looked at it a little. I guess really the only thing I have to say is I feel like, kind of like what Jill and Patrick and everyone has been saying, this is, I think, when WDWNT is at its best, is these kind of odd little backstories that people don't think about, but they're places that we do know and recognize. And it just reminds me of like watching the Imagineering story when the parks first shut down, and how much fun that was and how much I learned. And so this kind of just feels like an extension of that. So I hope that they do get some of this information out and these unique stories out, because I think something like this has so much potential, and it's right up a lot of people's alley if you're a Disney fan.
Yeah. All right, Emma?
Kind of to go back to Jill's point, I think there's going to be a lot of things where people know there's a backstory. Like Gideon's, when I walked in for the first time, it was very clear that there's a backstory. Like Olivia's, you look at the menu, you can see that there's a backstory, but people, might not remember what that backstory is. So I think it'll be interesting to see in this bracket if how well known that backstory plays into, what goes on and what doesn't. And I think it will. Like, if I predict that, people really know Jungle Cruise and Skipper Canteen, I have a feeling that's going to go really far. And I have a feeling the Tower of Terror one is going to go really far, because, even if you're going on it for the first time, you clearly get the story from the second you walk in, even without having that pre-show, I would argue. So, yeah, I'm interested to see. Just be prepared for a 3-hour show, people. Anyway.
One of the things, and I agree with all of you, I think, great points that we're going to learn a lot, and, this is the fun part. I love March Madness, and I think we kind of, we give everybody a good ribbing about the decisions they made, or, how it all goes. But this is my favorite thing. I mean, it really is, because, it makes you think about things that you don't normally think about, even if it's things that are counter service and table service, and you talk to people and your friends about it, and you're like, you share these things, and I think it's a lot of fun, and it really, as Disney fans, kind of takes us to the next level with all the stuff that we learn about. And I wouldn't have been able to tell you 64 backstories existed, but I assume everything's got a backstory. But there's a built-in backstory to most of them, right? Like, Aladdin's Magic Carpets is from Aladdin. Peter Pan is from Peter Pan. There's a built-in backstory to most of them. Maybe something like Frozen Ever After might have a different backstory than we're used to, because there's a new story.
The carousel has a really interesting backstory that it was like, built after the prince and Cinderella were married, and like he wanted a way to practice jousting, so he built this carousel. Like there's an actual, like, so it's Cinderella, sure, but it's not like it's the backstory comes straight out of the movie. They actually like kind of created like a little sequel story from the movie to tell the backstory of the carousel. So I mean, that maybe harkens back to a day where WDI was encouraged to be creative like that. I don't think that would happen today, to be honest. And I think that's unfortunate. And maybe that's one of the things we'll learn in the course of this tournament, is that backstories from years ago, were a lot more elaborate and just a lot more, common than they are today.
Yeah. Let's just really quick talk about seeding here. I'm surprised. I'm not surprised Superstar Limo is a 16 seed. Not surprised at all. Misadventure Falls, though, of 15, that I'm a little surprised because I feel like that one had a pretty good backstory. Some of these are cut off, so I'm not really sure. Because the Skipper Canteen, a 2, that definitely...
I mean, that's a walk. Misadventure Falls is off. I remember when
2 seed, yeah.
But like
when we were ramping up to oh my god, I just mentioned the name and now I can't think of it. That water ride that we just were at.
Misadventure Falls?
Misadventure Falls. I remember like falling in love with that backstory, and I don't really care for water rides all that much, but I thought it had a great story, and I would love to see maybe it plays into C in the series that comes to Disney Plus.
But that
if
said,
you don't know the God,
I was gonna say that said too, Patrick. This one surprises me that Adventurers Club's not a 1 seed.
Mm-hmm. What are the 1 seeds?
We've got up here. We've got. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Patrick. I hope you're holding on to your thought. Big
good.
Thunder Mountain Phantom Manor. So this is
interesting that they're combined.
Well, and I think there is a story.
I mean, they are,
connects
but,
them too.
yeah.
But that's a 1 seed. No, I was going to say Cosmic Rays. That can't be a.
Critter Country and Critter. It's down here. It's Critter Country and Splash. Yeah.
And Splash Mountain.
Okay.
Critter Country and Splash.
Down here.
Then on the other side,
that's Tokyo Disneyland.
Yeah, and then on the other side we have Galaxy's Edge and Tower.
Something from Tokyo has a 1 seed. Really,
no.
I'm stunned.
Well, Ant-Man, you know what, though? And Ant-Man and Wasp, I mean, I've not ridden that attraction, and I know Tom and Jason have and hated it, but I feel like that there's a very well-defined, explained in the queue area backstory to that one. So I'm surprised.
Well, and I
mean, even if you hate the attraction, it's not, and here we get into the explanations. It's not about the attraction, it's about the backstory, right?
That begs a really good question too, is like, where is the line between the storyline of the ride and the backstory of the ride? Because they are 2 different things. And I think even if Tom and everybody else is very, tries to be very clear about, no, that's not the like Haunted Mansion, for example, like the story of the ride and the backstory of the mansion are 2 different things. But I think people are going to conflate them in their judgments, and I think they're probably even going to confuse them, like almost unintentionally, that they're going to be voting based on what the storyline of the ride is and not what the backstory of the ride is. I think this is going to be really tricky, especially for a subject that people don't know as well as, being able to talk about what you like about a ride vehicle is easy if you've ridden the ride, but if you don't know the backstory, it's going to be a lot harder to make that judgment.
Patrick, I'm going to go back to you, and do you remember your original thought?
No, I have no idea what my original thought was, but I'm just glad we have that sound effect again. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm hopeful that we have some more great conversations, and I think Jill brings up a really good point, is a lot of times we're going to be pushing for the attractions versus eateries versus storefronts. I think there's a lot to be said for some of the stories that storefronts have, some of the stories that eatery, like Pizza Rizzo, you may not like the food from there, but it has a great story. It has a shout out to Emmett Otter. I think Pizza Rizzo deserves better. I think the bigger thing here is next year as we approach March Madness, we need to find a better way to seed the teams. I think maybe what we did for like the top 30, the top 40, the top 50 of parks, where we let people rank them, might be our best bet. And let the people seed them, and then we decide.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Jill, any other parting thoughts about maybe what you think should be number 1? What should win? What do you think will win?
I don't know. It's tough. I mean, the other thing that I think makes this tournament tough is the fact that it's all Disney parks, and again, you're taking something that not everyone is going to know everything about, i.e. backstories, and then you're adding on top of it the fact that a lot of people on the panel haven't actually experienced any of these, whether they're attractions or resorts or whatever. I think it's just going to be hard for people to make a good judgment because they aren't going to have enough information. And so I mean, in a way, I think this is like a conversation Tom wants to have that, everybody's going to try to keep up with. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be tough.
Kamila?
I'm curious to see how far back they'll take things, because some of these things go, I think, even further back than just Disney. So I think there's a question of like, is it the Disney history version or does it go further? And like a really good example of that is if you think about Splash Mountain and Song of the South and all of that, Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox, those characters are not from Song of the South. They existed before that movie and before that book ever did. So, there's kind of an interesting question of like, how far back do you take this? But I suspect they'll just keep it to where Disney kind of starts with a lot of it.
Yeah, for sure. Emma?
I mean, I think we're going to have another Secret Swiss bobsled training facility moment where, there's going to be like a backstory that isn't as clear that, Tom might go, imagine, blah, 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 whatever he decides to conflate the thing to, which, can be fun. I think that's the fun of March Madness is you never know what to expect. You never know how the bracket's really going to go. But I just hope that something like Jungle Cruise or something that really has a rich, full backstory wins and goes forward.
Yeah, Emma, can you tell me where you got that shirt? That's really cool. Where did you
Looking at this shirt at thecarouselproducts.com.
Okay.
These there, right? The cast member ones?
Yeah, this is the fourth and final cast member shirt. All the proceeds go to the cast pantry, which is still in need. And this is the last one, and there are a few left. I think there are a couple sizes out, but once this one is over, it's over. So we appreciate everybody who's purchased them so far. We did start this out with just doing one, but it was such a big, they was so popular, and again, it's such a great cause that we did 4 of them all together, one representing each park. So this is sort of the Animal Kingdom version, and also pairs well with St. Patrick's Day. So there you go. And one final thing I want to do, we always do, is thank our WIGs. Our WIGs members are our favorites. Thank you guys so much for being WIGs members. And Jill, do you have any WIGs news for us?
WIGs news. Let's see. I think big stuff happening this month. So I think everyone has gotten the word that effective April 1st, post shows will be moving to the $7 level. If anybody has issues, questions, problems about what to do about that, email wigs at WDWNT. We also launched our newest level, Wigs Ultra. So that's exciting. That's got a lot of additional perks and benefits, hopefully even more once we can start doing things in person again. What else? There's a thing in the works. We are approaching 500 members of the WIGs program. We're over 450 right now. We're rapidly approaching 500, and there have been some preliminary discussions about doing something pretty cool once we hit 500. So stay tuned for that. Probably news coming on that in a few weeks or so.
Great. Awesome. Thank you guys for joining us for this extra long ParksCenter. We do them extra long during March Madness because we want to cover it all. And tomorrow night, the next bracket starts. Get in on that. And again, WDWNT.com/MM is how you're going to register. You can go there, register now. You can register up to 3 p.m. tomorrow Eastern. And then after that, you got to hold your tongue, because if you didn't register, you can't cast a vote, and you just kind of got to sit on the sidelines and watch. But it should be great. I'm very excited to get in-depth information about all of these backstories, and for us to come back here next week and talk about it. So thank you guys so much for being with us. Thanks for joining ParksCenter, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.